So Season 3 Reloaded patch notes are finally here, which includes ranked play. A lot of good movement changes, maybe not enough for everybody, but a lot of good ones. And then also a ton of weapon balancing that should impact the close range as well as the long range metas by slowing down the TTK slightly. We'll have to see once we get our hands on it. So there's a new camo event, very similar to what we had before. The little reloaded trophy hunt thing should be pretty much gone. And then you're good there. But yeah, you'll be able to do specific challenges the same way we did with the Ronin event about a month ago. It looks like they went in and added a challenge for the Cronin Squall. Apparently this grip is available when you unlock the Battle Pass version and use the blueprint. So they added a challenge, so now you can unlock that, which is kind of interesting. They didn't just add another level like they've done with a lot of the other stuff, but maybe that's just easier. A challenge to unlock underbarrel drill charge attachment, which is kind of more of a trolley thing for the Kastov STB TAC 56. As you can see there. Hybrid optics no longer glint while in the low magnification alt. That is something that is very interesting, particularly for certain weapons that do have that. Keeping in mind that those can slow you down, but after today's buffs, they might be worth using some of those to get the lower zoom, and then you swap to the high zoom if you need to take a long range shot. Tracer effects can now be applied through the attachment skin customization menu. Another cool thing there. The damage feedback. This is when you get a hit marker and your screen goes all red, which has already been improved, but they are improving it even further. So the center part will be a little bit less red, so that's going to be cleared out. And then reduced overall alpha of red HUD overlay. Reduce saturation of vision set flash. So you'll still know you're getting hit, but it shouldn't feel like your screen, which I already felt like that was already improved on. Reduced distortion amount and reduced handheld camera noise on bullet damage, so less of that shake. Movement. Camera movement while walking and sprinting has been reduced, so less of that visual shake. And then a weapon raise delay following parachute landing decreased by 30%. And this is when you land, and then you have to go 30% faster. We'll see if that feels good. I would feel like that should be more responsive. Initial sliding acceleration increased by 6%, so it's a little more viable. Hopefully that mechanic changes after COD Champs, where you'll be able to hip fire and at least, while sliding. But we'll see. Maybe that's too much to ask for, but hopefully it gets to that point. The height threshold of a single hand mantle has been increased, allowing more aggressive traversal. So what this means is basically there's times where it's a two-handed mantle where you have to go pull up. Well, they've raised the height where you can do a one-handed mantle, which is just like a regular traversal. So in a lot of these cases where you're supposed to, normally you just jump and grab, you'll just go and it'll already be leaping over. So it should help with the fluidity of movement, which will be nice. But again, that one's something we have to feel. Weapons, we get 2 new weapons. I think this one could be really good. This is the FTAC Siege handgun, which is like a Tech 9. It's an SMG, which is kind of a little bit weird if it's good, because then you can use it and you could still pick up ghosts, especially in ranked or whatever the case is, if it's a very viable close range SMG type option. 50 hipfire kills. Basically, you do a kimbo, get 50 kills with a kimbo. You should be able to get this thing pretty quickly. And then we also have the GS Magna handgun, which is like a deagle but fully auto. This one can be put in a kimbo, the other one cannot. And then you acquire this 30 headshot operator kills using the deagle. So you have to use a base deagle to unlock this version of the deagle. So it's kind of weird that they didn't just add a specific attachment or something like that. They went ahead and just added a gun that we kind of already had. I don't know. It's kind of like if you had the M16 and then you just kind of convert it to fully auto and it made it into the M4, and you'd be like, why do we do that? But it is what it is. Throwing Star is available and locked via challenges. 50 operating kills with throwing knife. Weapon balancing. The first raise, so the delay between first equipping a weapon and being able to fire it has been decreased. And this is a lot of times when you pick it up, and most of the time you would just do that YY animation or weapon swap so that it wouldn't do the, all that type of stuff. So that should be a little bit faster there, but I think most people just YY out of that out of habit, even from Warzone 1. Quick raise and quick drop. So quick raise and quick drop speeds have been uniformly increased. So the speed of them, how fast they are, is faster, allowing for more rapid deployment of equipment, which is further improved by fast hands. So this includes also throwing stuff. So when you throw it, when you plate, a lot of those things should help line up a little bit faster, because normally when you drop your gun and then you put in a plate, now that animation, if it's 100 milliseconds faster, now you plate 100 milliseconds faster. And then after you're done plating your last one, your gun comes up however faster. And we'll have to again see how that feels in game, and again improved with fast hands. Armor damage. So maximum armor damage values have been added. This makes it so that they can balance the game and it doesn't impact multiplayer. So maximum damage values mean that, like, if people have armor, it should have a cap, a clamped effect. And as soon as it goes to health, then it'll go to whatever the damage value actually is. What this does is, depending on the specific values, you can add an extra shot, 2 shots, even 3 shots to kill, depending on the individual weapon. And it looks like, based off like the glance that I took at this beforehand, that they've addressed some of the stuff. It's going to be interesting because it doesn't look like they did much to the Vaznev or the Lockman sub, which were particularly important. But again, this is something we'll have to do the actual numbers in the practical like space. What does this actually do to the TTK? Because it's easy to say, oh, well, you're going to end up having an extra shot on plated people, but then like whatever. So we'll have to figure that part out. But overall, I like the direction where it says that these values will assist in slowing down the close range time to kill, which is like one of the biggest issues with this game. I think the long range TTK can feel fast at times, but in general, not a huge deal. Close range, my God, it feels like you're getting shotgunned by some of these SMGs at times, right? Especially with the lag and the server issues. Hopefully that all gets addressed. So handguns, those all got the minimum armor damage added. And generally that helps them perform a little bit better at range. So that should help them for longer ranges, but still it's not like, yeah, you're going to use the P90 at like 30 meters. It's not going to happen, right? Submachine gun, Bass P, looks like it got ADS speed improvement along with some headshot damage multiplier decreased, maximum damage increase. So it kind of got a buff and a nerf. So they balance that out. So you get a more consistent TTK, and you're not getting this TTK where sometimes you just absolutely delete them because you get too many headshots in there. Maximum damage range increased, which is a buff, and then mid-far damage increased, mid-far damage range increase, minimum armor damage added, so that should help it at range, and I think that offsets with that. So the Bass P should feel a lot better. Minimum damage increase and minimum damage range increase. So then it got buffs up close because it wasn't particularly special. We'll see if this gets used. Most of the time you've seen this one being used or used it at all was the floor loot. So reduced first raise animation. So that also got a specific one. So maybe that was an outlier of being particularly slow. Lockman, burst fire, minimum damage armor added, mini Bach. This one desperately needed a minimum armor damage, but it still needs a slight buff. Mini Bach is probably one of the worst SMGs currently in the game. But if it didn't have a big mag, then basically it would never be worth using. MX9, hopefully they add a bigger mag to this, because in terms of TTK, it's been meta TTK, but it's really hard to compete with such a small mag. Minimum armor damage added, so there it goes, Warzone specific. And then we got Vaznev 9K, maximum damage range decreased. So they actually nerfed it slightly, but I don't know if that's enough. We'll kind of see how that plays out, because like I said, those aren't weapon specific to the Lockman sub, how people use it in full auto and Vaznev. So I don't know if that did anything, because that seems like the goal was to lower, like to slow down that TTK, but nothing there says that got slowed down. So unless it's just not included and they just did a blanket change that does apply to those, we'll have to see. So assault rifles, the Chimera, semi-auto, minimum armor damage added. And again, the reduced first raise animation time, the ISO Hemlock, maximum damage. Hemlock gets a nerf here, pretty big, and we'll see, because they didn't affect the recoil. So I think there's a couple options that we're going to see here if the changes are enough. So maximum damage decrease, mid damage decrease, minimum damage decrease, lower torso multiplier increase, so kind of slight buff there. Extremities multiplier decrease, so a little bit of nerf. So mostly a nerf to the Hemlock. We'll see if it's still the option, because the biggest deal there is recoil. I think the cast off 545 with the close mid damage range decrease, minimum armor damage added though. So that might be enough to impact the TTK, where you get an increased value of damage for long range to armor, because the cast off 545 has basically no recoil, but it did less damage than the ISO. So you kind of went with that. The fire rates are very similar. Cast off 762. Semi-auto, minimum armor damage added, which I think most people use that in full auto, and then extremity multiplier decrease. So it got nerfed like for normal, but the minimum with the semi-auto, it got buffed for long range. So we'll see if that impacts it. Cast off 74U, minimum armor damage added. This should help it at range. Lockman 556. Here's another contender if it gets, it gets buffed out. So close mid damage increased, which is important. Maximum damage range increased. Mid damage range added. That's different. They added like a third value. Minimum armor damage added. So that's a plus for long range. That should help it out because this thing, again, very low recoil, but its TTK has always been like subpar compared to something like the Hemlock. Minimum armor damage added, semi-auto, minimum armor damage added, and then upper torso multiplier increase. So some buffs there. Is it enough to impact the weapon? We will see, because I think the Hemlock did get nerfed enough for people to experiment with these 3 or so weapons, and people inevitably find that one is the meta. But it looks like this is tightening it up so that even if you don't go hardcore meta, you should still have some viability in other weapons, which is kind of what we've been wanting for a while, right? There's always going to be a meta because that's just how gaming works nowadays with SBMM and competitiveness and online resources. But having variable when you load in, can I use this? Yes, right? And you have fun with it. M16, close mid damage range increased, maximum damage range increased, minimum armor damage added, cooldown time between bursts decreased. So this is buffs, and then reduce the animation again. And then M4, semi-auto, minimum armor damage added, and then sped up the animation. M13B, ADS speed increased slightly, so it's faster, damage range increased, hip fire spread accuracy increased slightly, minimum armor damage added, so that could help it improve the TTK. Still really, I wish it had like an 80 round mag because of how fast it burns through bullets, but it is what it is. And then TAC 56, which should be pretty good, maximum damage range decrease. So it got a slight nerf. Probably not going to be a noticeable difference there. So TAC 56 can still be like one of those top options with the other ones I mentioned. Biggest thing with that one though, it doesn't really have a barrel, so that you can increase range, bullet velocity, and recoil. So until that changes, you kind of have to use it a certain way, which is good. I mean, people use this more for mid-range, close range, not so much. Long range, if you're using iron sights, can get a little tricky. Battle rifles, FTAC Recon, auto fire, minimum armor damage increase, so slight buff there. Too bad 15 round mag doesn't really cut it. Minimum armor damage range increased and then reduced. So they're doing a lot of these changes to help at long range, and I'm not really seeing a lot of those close range changes that they mentioned, but we will have to see. I'm looking at it offhand, it feels like the TTK is not changing much, but who knows, right? Lockman 762, auto fire, minimum damage decreased. All right, cool. Minimum armor damage added. So there I got there. And then the SO14, auto fire, minimum armor damage increased, lower torso multiplier increased, and then maximum damage increased. Okay, minimum armor damage increased. So that looks like I got buffs. Not many people were using that. Plus, they got to figure out where these are just using auto rifle ammo, and then true snipers should get sniper ammo, right? TAC V, minimum armor damage increase, and then semi-auto minimum armor damage increased. So pretty straightforward. And then shotguns, minimum armor damage increased. That should help them be a little more consistent. Mid damage increased, so that got a buff. Hopefully they're not broken. Minimum armor damage, okay, the same thing, same buff. Lock with 300, minimum armor damage added. Light machine guns, HCR, minimum armor damage added. That should help them for range. Rep H, animations improved for that and the socket. So pretty straightforward. Ammunition, bullet velocity decreased. They nerfed the bullet velocity. Nice. Make it even harder to snipe. We'll see what that is. Could be like a 5% difference. Snake shot tuning enabled. Interesting. Blackout, all type, maximum armor damage added. So that should help them at close range where they get clamped a little bit. So it can't go above a certain threshold. Laser visibility decrease. Nice. Canted vibro dot now blocks core BP2 underbarrel. 7MW canted laser now blocks core BP2 underbarrel. Magazine Fennec double tap. All right, cool. And the STB single tap. Cooldown time between shots decrease. Magazine adjustments below apply to all attachments depending on whether they are larger or smaller relatively. So that's good. ADS speed penalty decrease, movement speed penalty decrease. So we already got that other slight changes to some of the movement type stuff with weapon draw time and the slide. But then this just gets rid of a lot of those penalties or reduces them significantly for large and small. Lockshot actually got a little bit of balancing rework. Optic, the Kazan Hollow reticle visibility improved. Stock FJX Imperium, those got improved. Benefits increased. All right, so people could try different stuff. All good there. Specific attachments, killstreak cluster mines, armor damage decreased. So how much damage a cluster mine will do? Hopefully they get rid of it eventually, but I mean, I guess it does have its place if it's just more of annoying than anything. Bug fixes, a few different ones there, specific optics, and then vehicles. Exiting vehicle is now less likely to cause collision with geometry. The heavy chopper is better at recognizing when it's an unrecoverable place and catch fire if stuck. All right, cool. Decent amount of bug fixes. Their audio improvements, clarity of audio ascender use sound, improved mix of precision audio, and mortar strike killstreak, particularly at distant bug fixes. All right, cool. UI. Added indicator of how to unlock the throwing star in the tabs. Okay. Added some national flags, loadout menus, display. Okay, all good stuff. Bug fixes, PC. Spec Ops, cool. That all drops. That should be fun. Playlist. For multiplayer, they get a new map. Giant Infected is going to be here, so that's good. A sandstorm spotted on the outskirts of Al Mazrah is headed towards Al Mazrah City. Operators should expect reduced visibility in the area. Additional loot spawns locations have been added to the Oasis area in the northwest section of the map. Gameplay adjustments. All maps, all modes. UAV pings will now emit from the player who activated them. This is a change that is pretty significant. A little bit harder to explain, but essentially, if you're 500 meters from your teammate and they pop a UAV, you will not get like a UAV around you. You'll just see it pulse from them for the typical 300 meters that it goes. Pretty big change, but it kind of encourages people to kind of be at least in the general area, which I think is nice for ranked play. We'll see how that impacts public matchmaking. If the player who activated the UAV is killed, the UAV ends. So you kind of got to guard that person at the same time. Using 3 UAVs will still upgrade to a signal into an advanced UAV, which is nice. With the UAVs now being available in all buy stations, we want to better balance the power. So they'll be equally balanced for solos as through quads. We felt that like all killstreaks should come with the player who calls it in. So if the players hear enemy UAV overhead, they know that the total radius covered is a fixed known quantity. Yeah, because sometimes you wouldn't hear it, but then obviously the teammate would get it, or however it works, right? Mortar strike, the amount of missile drops during mortar strike has been decreased by 25%. That means they subtracted 1 out of the 8 drops that it has, or 2 of them potentially. Disable, it went from like 8 to 6 strikes. Obstruction pings disabled the ability to ping enemies through smoke or water. Pretty interesting there. That makes those even more powerful, which they're already meta. So we'll see how that works out. Ashika Island, buy stations added, more possible buy station locations. Quality of life, ping visible to spectator. Eliminated players who are spectating a live player will now be able to see the live pings. Nice. Player queue interruptions. Players that will no longer be interrupted while navigating most menus when their party leader queues for a match. Ammo cache elevation. Up and down arrows have been added to the minimap. Nice. Buy station item selection. Selection cursor will now default to always start on the gear option. All right. This is what we got access to for this week. Ranked play beta, battle royale, solos, and quads. So there's no duos. And then Ashika Island has everything. And the next, we're going to have all of those. So plunder might be gone for a little bit because I don't see it there, but it looks like it's coming back next week. So I guess they're kind of forcing everyone into this, and then ranked play will only be trios. So I don't know if people will be happy about that, but we will see. So we've already gone through the SR, how that all works for ranked play. Nothing new about that. We'll go ahead and go through. We got all the skill divisions. Let me know in the comments what you're trying to go for. Personally, what I'm going to try and go for is Crimson right off the bat. In this short season, and then next season you're going to get dropped down. If you're Crimson or above, you get dropped down to Diamond. All the other ones you get dropped down slightly. So I want you to be as high as you can. So regardless if you're Crimson, Iridescent, or top 50, you're going to get dropped down to Diamond. And then next season, You'll only have to go up to Crimson and then Iridescent if you're trying to go for that, if you want to be on the top end of the division. Top 250 leaderboard divisions, ranks, rewards, a lot of different rewards for the rank stuff, but we'll see how all the other stuff lies out because there is a lot of stuff. Competitive integrity features, squad back out, match cancel. We've already gone through a lot of that stuff. The reality is, they said they're putting out some fixes for the servers, which should impact today's servers, and then also some huge Ricochet upgrades that they've been it looks like they've been saving so they can have a good launch. As we know that Ricochet is always this battle of better cheats, better anti-cheat, better cheats, better anti-cheat. I know that some people say it doesn't exist at all. It clearly does, because there's times when it's better and there's times when it's worse. If it didn't work at all, it would always be worse, which isn't always the case, right? I know there's some people, probably every gunfight they lose, they claim the person's a cheater, but I promise you, you're not running into cheaters that often where it's literally every match. But it is what it is. General, PSA Champions Quest is going to get a new update. So new features, deployable buy stations, new field upgrade. That should be really good. When we actually use this one, when I got an opportunity to go to the studio, try these features early, this one's cool because this one lasts pretty much forever. It does come in and people can see it. You can shoot it out of the sky and it'll just land where it is. But these things last, not like originally where in Warzone 1 they would stay there for a certain amount of time. These ones last a while. So this actually becomes like a new POI of like interest if there wasn't already a buy station and everyone wants to hit up this buy station with all these unlimited stuff. Lootable perk packages. This is very cool. This will be interesting to see how this works. There's some default ones, plus obviously the ones you make. Eliminated players will drop perk packages that can be carried on the ground as a lootable item. So that's a W. When you kill someone, you can take their perks. When you die, or you have a team wipe and maybe your teammate died, maybe you can hold their perks for them until they get back from the gulag, then you give them and then they're good to go, right? So there's some cool features with this can be used. We'll see how it gets exploited, because it definitely can, and it will balance out that way. Adjustments, all maps, most wanted contract reward crate will now drop when players eliminate the most wanted contract. So whether you finish it or you aggro the most wanted, you're going to see that thing drop. All maps, Battle Royale, Resurgence, buy station inventories have been adjusted to provide players an expected static list of purchasable items. New perk packs for 3,500, unlimited gear. We get armor plates, gas masks, these things I talked about in my video, but this is good that it applies for everything. We got munitions boxes, UAVs. UAV cost is up to 6,000 because now they're unlimited. Mortar strikes, precisions, and then loadout markers are 20,000. I wonder if that's going to be mode specific, because that is kind of pricey. Limited gear items, we get counter UAVs, cluster mines, self-revives, durable gas mask, all are only 2 only, which is going to be interesting for trios because then only 2 people can get it. You got to hit up 2 buy stations. Good stuff. And that's all of that. So I'm excited to try it out. I'm not overly optimistic because they have flopped on these types of things in the past. I think it'll hopefully be good enough to play, and the TTK will feel better, and the movement will feel slightly better from the changes they made, and then Season 4 will continue to get more changes. Hopefully the meta is a little bit diversified. That's one of the reasons for the huge lack of videos on the channel. I apologize, but it's really hard for me to be disingenuous and just put out nonsense and say this is the best gun. Try these. They're not very good, but hey, you know what? It's really hard to get excited about content like that when the meta is so strict. And I really want to get excited about that because I do enjoy making videos and I know people enjoy watching them. So it's kind of one of those things that it's how it goes. But I appreciate all the support, even with the lack of uploads. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.